Happy Friday, everyone. It's Sharon coming at you from Beach Therapy Counseling Services. As usual, if you guys like the content of what you are hearing, please go ahead and subscribe at the end of this video and then share it on your social media with those that you love and care about. So let's get into today's topic because I think it's something that we have all been affected by and maybe haven't really known how to deal with. So the topic of being a scapegoat, I think, has been a topic that we have all, like I said, endured at some time or another and to some level. So being a scapegoat means the brunt of everybody's stress and problems becomes our burden to carry. And we become a scapegoat first. If we recognize the reason why we are becoming a scapegoat, it might help us recognize future patterns or maybe be able to interrupt it before it even gets to a level where it's uncomfortable or you're being picked on. So the first things is to recognize is is the people around you or the people you're dealing with somebody who is dealing with stress in their lives that is unmanaged. So what I mean is, let's say you have a best friend, a boss, a spouse, a coworker, somebody in your life who has stress in their life that they express to you, but has no way to manage it and no tools to manage it, and nobody helping them to kind of get through that stress. If that's the case, you could very easily become their scapegoat. And the second is somebody in your life or a group of people in your life, um, people who feel like they don't have any power. So allow me to elaborate a false story. So let's pretend you are in a relationship with somebody who feels at a lack of power in his or her job or feels at a lack of power in their dynamic within their um, family relationships with their coworkers, with their boss, and so they exuberate that power over you because that's the only place that they feel like they can gain some sort of control. So then you become their scapegoat, right? Because the problem isn't within your relationship necessarily, but it's in with these other relationships in their lives that they have no control over. So those are the things to look out for. And then ways to avoid becoming those people's scapegoat is the moment you notice some of these tendencies to assert yourself, to allow yourself to set those boundaries so that person does not feel like they can walk all over you or they can use you as their scapegoat. So, what I mean by that is you notice right out the gate, like, okay, so this person has areas where they aren't dealing with them or they don't have the skills or any avenues to deal with their stressors, so they are going to likely, maybe not even knowing it, try and take it out on me. So if you can recognize that in another person and start seeing signs of that in another person, then you will be able to easier set your boundaries early on. So if that person right away starts making comments or even just little innuendos that they're going to pick on you and use you as a scapegoat, you can right out the gate set your boundaries saying, hey, I know you've had a rough day, or I know things at work aren't going great, or I know things with your family aren't wonderful, or your significant other, or whatever the situation might be, but I'm not going to let you treat me this way. So if you can get yourself into a position of that kind of assertion right out the gate when you recognize it, then you are in a place of power and they likely will back off from making you a scapegoat. However, that doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes we get to the position of being a scapegoat before we even realize that's where we're at. So then we're not coming at that of a position of power anymore, are we? Now we're coming at that from a position of lack because now we're already the victim of being a scapegoat. So in order to get from underneath that, we again need to assert our power, which means the moment we know, like, I'm not going to deal with this anymore, is the minute we need to assert that power and have the conversation with that person or the group of people that says, hey, half of this is on me for allowing this to go on as long as it has, but the other half is going to be on you. So I am going to address the part in me that allowed me to be your scapegoat by really figuring out what it was in me that I am lacking that allowed me to let you treat me this way. But the part B to that is me saying now that I recognize it, that I'm not allowing it anymore. And so I'm forewarning you that when I notice you treating me this way, I'm going to interrupt it, call it what it is, and ask you to redirect your comment, your behavior, and the way you're treating me in a different way. So I just want you to know. So this is you warning people. I want you to know that I notice that I have done this, and so I'm going to be interrupting it. So that way, when it happens in the future, you will know, you'll be prepared for my reaction, because my reaction is going to be different. Before I was absorbing it, right? I was allowing it to happen. That's what I mean by absorbing it. And taking on being your scapegoat, where now I am coming from a different place and I'm recognizing it. And this is healthier for me. And in the end, it's going to be healthier for our relationship. And I'm going to be interrupting it. So it might be uncomfortable, but by me announcing that, by you announcing that that's what I'm doing, that leaves this person more educated in the way of, so when you do have to interrupt it, they're not going to be like, hey, wait, where's this coming from left field? And you feel like you can address it then from a place of calmness. Whereas if you are addressing it from a place of battle, then you're going to be less likely to have a receiver that understands why you're reacting the way you were when the entire time before you allowed it to happen. So if that makes sense, you're going to be proactive, calm, and allowing that person the chance to understand what you're trying to do and where you're coming from, rather than getting upset after all of this time of allowing this person to make you or allow this person to have you be the scapegoat. Now all of a sudden you're upset, you're mad, you're battling. That gets you nowhere, because that person's not understanding why all of a sudden you're having this reaction where you had not before. So that's the advice I give you. If you are the scapegoat, you can get out from under it. You can build healthy relationships, even if this is how you have allowed the relationship to manifest itself. And if you're not the scapegoat, but you know that you have a tendency in some relationships to become a scapegoat, because I'm telling you, if you don't feel like you have, I'm telling you, at one point in your life, if not now, there has been a point, or there will be a point, where somebody will try and make you the scapegoat, because it's our natural tendency to take out kind of our bad energies on, for lack of better words, the scapegoat, or the person that we feel like will absorb it or will take it in. And we don't always even do that on purpose. People aren't always bad intentioned when they're doing it, but it does happen. So if you could recognize the qualities in other people, like, oh my gosh, they're really lacking in these different relationships in their lives, and I might likely become a scapegoat for them, then you can be proactive instead of reactive. So that's the best advice I have for you guys as far as that goes, because the last thing we want is some of our closest relationships to become ones where we are the victim mentality, right? And they become this villain, because that's not healthy, and it is hard to get out from under, but it's definitely not impossible. So start asserting yourselves in those relationships the way I kind of mapped it out for you, so that way you come from a place of strength and you're not getting defensive and you're not getting angry. You're just stating where you're coming from, why you're coming from this position, and what you're going to do from this point on moving forward when you're presented with these scenarios where you're feeling like they're scapegoat. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with you speaking your truth and speaking from a place of power. Like, I'm no longer going to be your victim. I am going to take power over this situation, and this is what it's going to look like from this point on. So, as usual, guys, you guys know where to reach me, mybeachtherapy.net. If you ever have questions, concerns, or even comments, I'm always open to all of them. Please reach out to me. You can also find out how to get counseling through me and how to reach me on my website as well. So I hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend, or start to your weekend, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.